What is curb cut and what is curb cut effect? And how does it influence pretty much every single person on the planet? This is a very interesting topic because it's something that people don't really think about, and I love those things where you experience it every single day, but until someone highlights it, then it opens your mind a bit more. And this is where we talk about the curb cut effect. To just break it down a little bit, curb cuts are those little ramps that you see at the end of a pavement or sidewalks for my American and Australian friends. Those are the ramps that allow wheelchair users to get on and off the pavements. And we see them everywhere, don't we? We see them in most major cities and towns across the globe, and they're very useful. They do have many names though. I mean, I believe they are also called curb ramp, depressed curb, drop curb, and curb ramp as in curb with K-E-R-B. That's how I believe we spell it in the UK. It seems like a normal thing, isn't it, to have curb cut, and it's just a standard feature. But obviously it wasn't there forever. When it was originally introduced in the 1940s in the US, it was originally designed to help disabled veterans who were also wheelchair users to get around, to get out and about. But it wasn't until the 1970s when it really became prominent. And it really came about when a group of disabled activists led by Ed Roberts from Berkeley, California, and they're all students from University of California in Berkeley. And basically, they wanted to show an act of defiance, a political statement about how inaccessible it is for wheelchair users to get around the city. And they did that by doing things like pouring cement at the end of pavement so that you can create a ramp for them to make it easy for them to get on and off, or even just breaking it down a little bit to make it easier to get on and off the pavement when you are on a wheelchair. And it just to highlight it is to show that this is what they want. It's so inaccessible as it is, and they wanted to make a point. And it was an act of defiance to the city council and to make their voices heard. But it did a little bit more than that, because then it became a city policy in 1971, and Berkeley became the first city in the world to have a so-called curb cut that back then nobody knew of. And it seems like a normal thing now, isn't it? We see it all the time, and it's good. But have you really thought about the curb cut effect of it? Well, this is where I'm going to get into the definition of that. The curb cut effect is the phenomenon where an feature or an item that is originally for disabled people, or it's like a disability feature, it actually has a wider use that is universally beneficial for a big group of people. So it's not just focused on disabled people. So if we talk about the curb cut again, it ends up being very useful for those who are, for example, pushing a stroller or pram on and off the curb, or those who are pulling their suitcases on and off the curb, or maybe cyclists or skateboarders, or maybe those who just happen to be delivery drivers and workers who have big rack of parcels and they want to push it onto the curb to get into the building. That's kind of useful for them as well. So it ended up being called the curb cut effect, because the original purpose actually became a much more beneficial thing to have for much wider group of people. A few more examples of items that have the curb cut effect. Grocery delivery. Now, of course, it's convenient, it's quite handy, but it ended up having a bigger thing for people who, for example, disable themselves, but people who also maybe just have some kind of social anxiety disorder or depressive disorder, and it's a struggle for them. Maybe people who don't have cars, or it's very difficult to get public transport to the supermarket, they can get their grocery delivered. Or maybe single parents, they really don't have that much time left after looking after the children, so they just get the grocery delivered. So many benefits. Curb cut effects. Another example are these voice activation tools, the Alexa, the Siri, the Cortana, all these tools that, have been around for a while now, and they seem to be quite handy. But then if you think about it, they are extremely handy for people who have mobility issues and they can't do the basic thing that maybe we take for granted, like turning on the light. You get up to turn on a light. Well, if you have all these tools connected, you can just shout out the command and there it is, the lights are on. That's also quite cool. And then a simple one is like elevators. Do I need to explain the benefit of elevators and how it can help many people? I think you get the point. But what does this have to do with deafness and deaf awareness? If I'm talking about curb cut effects, how is that linked to deafness? Well, it actually does, and there are a few examples of them. And the big one for me is when I talk about the benefits of captions or subtitles. Because originally, people thought they are useful for those who are deaf or hard of hearing, and that's it. That's who are going to benefit from it. But if you have been watching or listening to me or reading my stuff, you know that I've been talking about the benefits of captions and how it can help a lot of people. For example, you could have a sound processing disorder. You could be learning a new language and you just find it easier to read it. You could be in somewhere in a noisy environment, like on a bus or on a plane or something, and you can't hear it, but you put on the captions. Or maybe you need to be somewhere quiet and you can't turn on the volume, but you want to watch a video, turn on the captions. And maybe you want to help your children to not just watch TV, but improve their literacy rate. Well, you know what? Having captions can help with that as well. There are so many benefits, and there are more actually. And that is the curb cut effect of captions. Another one that has a wide appeal across the world now, huddle. As in when people huddle around together in sports. Because the origin of huddle, the way it was started, was because of deaf students in Gallaudet University for American football. They were playing against another deaf team and they wanted to communicate in secret, in sign language of course, and they did that by huddling. And that is the origin of huddle, which now we see all the time in a variety of sports, and they are not used by deaf people. Actually, everyone can use it. They all huddle around, communicate, get their message across, encouragement, let's go, break, and we win the game, or stuff like that. But you get the point. That has a curb cut effect because the original purpose of it was to sign in secret, but it has a much wider appeal. Now, there is a more detailed article about curb cut effect. You can check it out in the description. But what is really the point of this is that inclusivity helps everyone, whether you notice it or not. And most of the time, we don't notice it. So next time you think about some kind of accessibility feature or adding something on a website or in a society somewhere where you think, oh, it's only going to help X number of people or small group of people. Well, actually, it may have that curb cut effect where it will help a wider range of people. It will have a benefit to society, and most likely it will do that. It will have a positive knock-on effect to so much more people than you think. So consider that when you're thinking about should we or could we or should we, but really you should do it. I mean, just do it. But at least you know now there are minimal benefits to it. Consider the curb cut effect. If you have any more examples of curb cut effects, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear them. I would love to see different thoughts and mindset and what you see in the wild that you thought, you know what, that actually helps, you know, more people than originally targeted for. Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you'd also subscribe, follow, heart, love, hug, high five, fist bump, all of these things, whatever you can do. I'd really appreciate it if you can do that. In the meantime, I will speak to you again soon. Take care.